Hi, I'm Carol Gader, and this is Jackie. And you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Jackie Olmstead with Earth Mama Living.
Yes, and I'm with Gader Family Wellness. And we wanted to come today to talk to you about being a single mom because we both have experienced that. My experience was many, many years ago when my children were young. My youngest was only 2 months old when I had to leave my husband. He had mental problems and was dangerous when he actually would flip and go psychotic. So finally, I left, and it wasn't easy. And we know how many of you out there um, are single moms or even have a partner and find that you're almost overwhelmed by working and taking care of kids and a partner and a home. And some of you are still trying to finish your education. And so it is a real big challenge. And that's what we come to talk to you about. Anything you want to add to that, Jackie?
Guys, I'm just really happy to be here. I love talking to you on these calls, and I think we have some great ways of sharing our stories and asking each other, our journeys. And we think of things the other hasn't thought of, I think. So that's why it makes it great.
Yeah, we like it better than just talking to you alone. And yeah, you get to hear two sides. And who knows, someday we may have four of us here. Who knows? Um, anyway, for my situation, this was many years ago because I'm older now, way past menopause and so forth. In fact, I am a great grandmother and I love it. But way back when I first was a single mom with two babies, I wanted to finish getting my education. I had gone to the University of New Hampshire only 2 years, and I wanted to continue with my education. And I was working. I was lucky. They took me as a teacher, and I was a kindergarten teacher. And so I was teaching during the day, going to school at night, taking care of babies. And guess what? I had no washing machine, no dryer, no dishwasher, and no one else to help. So I had to wash out cloth diapers back then every single night. And then I had this wooden rack in my a tub, and I would hang the diapers over the tub, and sometimes they're little bibs or whatever, which I put on them, and they don't do that now, but they did then, and that was to save washing their clothes out 2 or 3 times a day. And I was lucky that at least I had my parents. And on the weekend, I would go on Sunday and take all the rest of the clothes, the sheets and other things, and I would go and wash them. But it wasn't easy. Um, and I didn't have the skills. I was only 25 years old, and I didn't have the skills that I have now that I'm older. And Jackie is also a single mom of a teenager, no less, which is really not easy. And at least she's a little older and she has some of the skills. And we're going to talk to you about those skills dealing with it later. But I'd like you to tell a little bit about your story, Jackie, and how you coped and so forth.
Wonderful, wonderful. And by the way, I also did the cloth diaper route, but I was fortunate enough to have a machine, a washer, and a dryer. So I can only, and I had only one child. So I can only imagine how that was for you to not have the washing machine and drying capabilities at your disposal. So wow.
Well,
And
I did have them, but I left them with my ex-husband because I could only bring so much stuff. And
sure.
so I couldn't afford to buy new. So there I was.
Well, yes, I definitely can relate to that because yes. So I also left my husband at the time when my daughter was 3. So, and also at the time, I didn't have a full-time income. I had a challenging situation, but it was a couple years in the making where trying. Really, we really tried to make things work. And of course, now I can see, hindsight is, whatever. But um, so yes, let's just say, so I didn't know how it was gonna be, but I just knew that I needed to make this change. And so I didn't know what the results would be either of the separation, the divorce, that kind of thing, as far as the court proceedings, how it was in Arizona, a lot of hearsay about how it's supposed to be. It wasn't that way with me. Whereas they say they favor the wife, that they favor the mother. They don't.
Not anymore. They
Yeah.
used to. In my day, they
Ah,
used to, but they don't anymore.
well, yeah. Now it was a hard, cold reality at the time, and I was definitely full of anger and life challenges with myself. But yeah, so I was in an apartment. I did have a washer and dryer, and I didn't have enough income really to cover the expenses of all my things that I needed to do. I did find myself quite distraught, quite in a financial trouble, but I was able to, thank goodness, find some support. And I know that we were going to talk about those things.
Yes, yes, yes. Support is important. And what should a person do you think, when they find themselves in this situation and they don't have enough income and they don't know where to turn? What would you suggest they do?
Well, um, first thing I think is to look around at what you do have and what you know of. If you don't know what you have, then that definitely can create a challenge for you. And I don't know how it is now compared to back then. I mean, it's been 12 years since I had that situation. But at the time, there was welfare, and there was also here in Arizona, they call it WIC, which is the Women and Children. When women, infants and children, and that program offers you a ridiculously low amount of money, but it's something for support, for things that you can buy for at the grocery store that are included. So, but that and the work that I could find at the time, we were in a recession, like the whole country. And so the 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 work that I could do, that I was capable of, that I was trained for, and I did have a college degree, but nobody was hiring for graphic design that I could find. I mean, I applied everywhere. I mean, hundreds and lots of websites. And so, you know what? I found what I could, which was I actually was starting to see someone at the time. He was a security officer. I actually found work outside in the summer in Arizona, being a
Wow.
security officer with long black pants and a long sleeve shirt. Yes, it was brutal. I had heat exhaustion, and it was grueling. So I was definitely looking forward to when it cooled off, but luckily at that time, my daughter was getting out of diapers, so it was helping the diaper situation. Um, and so yeah, looking for what you have, and then looking for what you don't know that you can receive, that you are, you know, you're due that, because if you've worked in the past, you've paid Social Security, you've paid into the
That's
system,
right.
you
That's right.
deserve help from the government. So,
And you know something?
mhm.
It's okay to ask for help.
Mm.
I didn't even know anything about the welfare system, food stamps, which were popular in that day. I had no idea. I just was so busy. I just didn't even look at that. And I remember one day my father came to visit, and it was the 3 weeks before Christmas, and I had very little milk left and hardly any cereal. And I don't know, he started opening my cupboards, and then he didn't say anything. Then he walked over to my refrigerator, opened my refrigerator door, and he turned around and put his hand over his mouth and said, "Oh my God, you need money," and
Oh,
handed me, at that time was a lot of money, $50, which
yeah.
isn't a lot. But today that would be more like 150, I think, because this was way back. And I went out, it was just before Christmas, and I didn't have anything for anybody, my
Oh,
brothers and my children. I went out and spent half of that buying a dollar present at a dollar store, which was Woolworths at the time.
mm,
And the other half I bought groceries. Now, my father had a farm, and so I had all the eggs and chicken that I wanted. And his brother had a dairy farm. And of course, I couldn't buy the milk because they had to be pasteurized and all. But so at least that helped. But yeah, seeking the help you need. I can't encourage you more to do that. Really, really important. And
mm.
how did you ever have any time for yourself? I know I didn't.
No, I really didn't, especially back then, because I was also in another relationship. And I know God has plans for us all, and I
True.
my I don't regret it, but I would say that that really goes with finding. You've got to find the peace somehow in the grounding, and actually, even in that relationship time, I would get really, really quiet, and in the moments that I had, and pray, and and having the meditation and that type of exercise, that type of thing, because that actually was what helped me to then leave the boyfriend situation at that time, because I knew then that I needed to get out of that one. But I also then asked for help in understanding why I was in that one and what I could learn from it. Obviously, once I could get past the pain, the anger and the pain and the extreme frustration and like desolation feeling, just sit with it and then ask, okay, obviously I needed to be in that. I would be open to hearing why. And also for the ex-husband, you know, what can I gather from it so that I can have peace and sanity within myself? And that helped my daughter. And I talked to my daughter, and this is one of the hugest things too to say to moms. Talk to your kids through this whole thing, because if they don't feel like they're on board and they're just floating out there, I think that would really cause a lot of grief and sadness with them to be disconnected from you. You're doing a good thing. You're doing the choice that you've made. You've made this choice to leave, or either way, whatever, however you got into this situation to be single, it helps for them to know that they are with you. And
I think that's so important, Jackie. And I didn't do that. Because maybe my situation was different, but my daughter was only 3. And I had made her daddy out to be this. I thought he needed extra support, so I always made him to be the great knight in shining armor. And when he'd come home, "Oh, daddy's home," and we'd rush to the door, and she'd put out her hands, and he would pick her up in the air, and so she loved her daddy. And you know what she did every night? She would put the covers right up over her head. She
oh,
was just so frightened. She was in a new place. She didn't know anybody. She didn't have her daddy anymore.
mm,
And how did I talk to her and tell her, your life was in danger with this man?
mm,
I couldn't tell her that. And I didn't know what to say to her. So I agree. If you can just talk to your kids, and I felt I couldn't. And I don't know, maybe I should have, but
oh, well,
I
I
just felt I couldn't at that time.
Well, I think you did the right thing though. Because also
Who knows?
because here in Arizona, for example, they have you go through parent training, parent not training, therapy, and also just actually a yeah, it was a 6 hour long seminar basically
This is
about
when you got divorced?
yeah, Arizona makes you do that, which actually I was extremely grateful for.
Great.
Yeah, because so afterwards they actually tell you some of the cold hard truths that you need to hear before you finish this divorce, and I'll never forget it. And but the one of them was you're gonna we guarantee you'll see less of your kids, which hit me like a boulder because it was actually the opposite that I wanted. But okay, so I was like, okay, well, but I'm still making this choice. Number two was don't demonize your other, no matter what. Don't demonize the parent, because if you do that, you're actually you're telling your kid that the kid themselves are bad because
That's
they are
true.
so connected. So I think you did the right thing because
Yes,
you didn't
I had
tell
no
them,
training though like that. And I
well,
had, yeah, I think that that training is excellent.
you were using your intuition, which is uh, fantastic, I think.
But in those days, a lot of parents would be angry with the other parent, which usually you are. And when you, especially if you go through a nasty divorce, you're angry. And in those days, they didn't have the counseling they do. My son went through that when he was a young father. And I said, whatever you do, do not say bad things about your ex-wife because it affects the children.
Mhm.
And I know my ex-husband did. He said terrible things, and he said, I ruined the family. I took her away from him. And after she'd been with him, she said, I hate you. You won't let me be with my daddy. You won't. And she was just awful. And so if I can relate anything out there to young parents who are single, don't say anything against the other parent. And sometimes my son told me he almost felt like chewing his tongue off, trying not to say anything
Mm.
because he knew in my situation it was so bad. And he didn't. And so he didn't have that constant pull on his kids that so many families have. And I'm glad you brought that up because I had almost forgotten that part, which is so important. Back to tell me more about taking care of yourself during this time. Young mothers need to hear what they can do to perhaps nurture themselves so that they are can be with their kids and not be totally drained and you know.
Well, and I think to like finish the statement of, you know, talking to the kids is also because my mom did this. My mom, she kind of used me as therapy. Um, and
Oh,
and bless her heart now, though. I mean, she's passed on, and I understand that whatever. But I learned from that as a kid myself. Don't do that to your kids. Don't lean on your kids for that kind of support. Now, now my daughter, I'm lucky. She's actually very insightful for her whole life. She's been very insightful about things. I didn't lean on her. Hopefully, I didn't come across that way, but she would say things to me that were truths, as we all know kids say, and she would say, "Mom, blah blah blah," and I would say, "You know what?" And to validate her being um, intuitive and or just simply insightful, I would say, yes, you're right. You know what? Thank you for saying how you feel and what you see, even though I don't like hearing it, really. It was not very good. But we as parents and as moms, I mean, we have our kids who are amazing, beautiful angel souls that we have in our lives. So if they give us nuggets so yeah, don't use them as therapy, obviously, but I think it's easier said than done. and then to listen and validate when they do have things to say to us that need to be heard.
Okay. And also, you feel so alone in your parenting. And I wanted to ask you about if you had people in your life who you could turn to just maybe to help you with the parenting, or that you could ask for help, whether it's taking the kids after your daughter after school, or whether it was you just had $50 short on your bill. And, I mean, was there anybody in your life that you could turn to for that kind of help?
Well, at the time, no, I didn't really have anybody. So I I just I worked more hours if I could. I one thing I did do though was not financial, but actually I it forced me to nurture because I had split parenting time. I needed to nurture and somehow make decent the relationship I had with my daughter's dad. So I would ask him or say to him, look, I need to go out of town for a couple of days, and the way the court order was, it was written that if one of us couldn't watch her, then the other parent was default. It would, so I would arrange with him. So if that's even possible, and I know in your situation it was not safe to do that, but if that's one thing. The other thing, by the way, which was a huge lifesaver for me, was a group that I found locally. It's called Moms Club. There's a Moms Club International, and we would get together a couple times a week. We actually set up babysitting type of parties where one mom would watch all the kids, and then the other moms would go do something for her, even if it was 2 hours. Obviously, 2 hours is like golden time
Yes.
for someone who
So
doesn't.
if someone wants to get a hold of this organization, could you tell me, what they would put in Google or whatever to find this group?
I think it's simply called Moms Club International.
Okay.
So if they were to look for that,
Moms Club
mhm,
International.
mhm.
Okay. Thank
And
you. I think that will help a lot of people out there that need this kind of support.
I agree. And it was I was a member of that group for probably 5 or 6 years. And I still have friends today that are longtime friends that I made from that group. And obviously our kids have grown now in high school, but as friendship, it has proven to be very wonderful.
Yeah, because like draws like, and you're all going through the same challenges and you can discuss it. I didn't know anyone but one lady that was divorced, and she had 4 kids. And I can remember one day I was quite discouraged, kind of feeling sorry for myself, because everybody else seemed so happy and I was struggling with all this. And an ex-husband who had to see my children under circumstances where there was someone there because of his problem. And it was so difficult. And I can remember one day going over to her house, and she said, "Oh, come in." She was always like that, so friendly. And I got in there and sat on her stool in her kitchen, and she was making pies, and she was making 4. Well, I struggled to make one pie. And here she was making 4 pies at once, flapping them out like crazy. And her 4 kids were all there, all young, like my 2 were. And she was so upbeat and moving around and telling me how to do it. Oh, no, I never use a recipe. I just use a third of this and a third of this and a third of this, put it together and mix it up with my hands and put it out. And I thought, oh, she is amazing. And that helped me. It just helped me realize she's got 4 kids and she's baking 4 pies. And well, maybe that was her therapy, which is we all have our thing that's our therapy. My therapy has always been gardening. And of course, I was in the city in an apartment right in the city. So, of course, there was nothing to garden right there. And I'd look out the window and there is the train track and garbage cans over here on the other side. And I'm thinking, whatever happened to my life? I thought when I married my husband, who was a college graduate engineer, top of his class, that my life was all set.
Mm.
You never, never know. Just never know.
So true.
Yeah.
But- So I love that. So you found local moms yourself, but
I found this one, and
Mhm.
my other support was my parents.
Mm.
Although my mother was not always a strong person, every Sunday I just knew that I had a place to go and I'd have dinner and the kids would go and they loved it. They loved their grandma and grandpa. And I could do my wash and I come home with a dozen eggs and sometimes some chicken. And if it happened to be gardening time, I'd come home with tomatoes and not oranges, that's Florida, lettuce and so forth. This was in New Hampshire, so the season's short, but yeah, they were a big help at that time. And I thank God that I had them in my life at that time, because shortly after my mother got sick and died of cancer. And so at that time when I needed my family, they were there. So you didn't even have really family for support.
No, I had none of my own family, but you're reminding me actually too that my daughter's grandparents, her dad's parents, and actually great grandmother were here, and actually the grandparents are still here now. And once we got through the divorce hearings and a lot of the emotional dust settled, um, the grandparents, so they helped also. So especially during the summertime when school's out, um,
And so they didn't blame you for what happened or shut the door to you or anything?
it was um a lot of things said under kind of the- they think, I mean, yes, they certainly did. I mean, I think that they were mostly heartbroken. I do know that, I mean, they're Catholic faith, so I know that was a challenge for them because of the
Of
belief system
course.
around divorce, which I respect that and honor that. And at the same time, I just said I can't stay in this. So that was a challenging time to try to explain to them that it was, done.
Mhm.
But um, we all, I'm grateful, extremely grateful. We all have a very amicable relationship. Her dad, her grandparents, they still live local. Um, my daughter's great grandparents have passed since, but they were very loving and always supportive of um, our daughter, I should say. And she was the first great grandchild, I think. Yeah, was she the first? I believe. So she was the great grandchild, certainly in her dad's family. So, different way of treating her. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing, but I think that looking for those kind of resources. So, yes, her grandparents were also able to help us.
Great. That really was a big,
Yeah.
Now I want to kind of close with the helps that I didn't get emotionally. I mean, I did belong to a church, but the pastor never came to visit. The whole time I was single, he never made a call. And any of you pastors listening to this out there, go to the single moms. They desperately need the spiritual part of their life and someone to recognize it and be there with them and just talk to them. Say, I know what you're going through. Maybe you don't, but just to talk to them and help them that way. I had the Mormon elders come and I let them in and we talked and they were wonderful during that time. I really, really appreciate them at that time because I had no one else spiritually. because I've grown a lot since then. But you said figure out what you need, what you have, figure out what you need for support in every way, financially. You said that you could get some help from the state. You paid into it. You get some help from the state. I don't know if they have food stamps or food. I know they have a lot of places that give out food, and you said WIC, and I remember hearing about WIC. I don't remember when that came out, if it was available, because I said I didn't even look for anything like that. And financially, there are some helps out there financially too. Um, welfare. And you said you got a little bit. Well, every little bit helps, doesn't it? I mean, it really does. And groups, the single moms and the group that you mentioned sounded wonderful. I just feel that you don't want to be alone in this. It's a lonely place anyway, being a single parent, but you don't want to go through it alone when you can reach out and get help and find others. They have a lot of support groups today for different everything, even mental illness. And when I was going through mental illness with my first husband, there were no support groups. I had nothing to go, no one else, and you didn't talk about it. You did not talk about it. It's getting better, and I'd like to see that get even better. Now, is there anything else you can add of advice for these single moms?
The biggest thing I was just thinking of, but all that amazing stuff that you talked about is when you do seek the help, when you do seek friendships and or any type of guidance, please make sure that they are coming from a positive place.
Great. Yes.
Really important because and as they say, you know, when you get around people who are negative, it's almost better that you're not getting their help or you know,
Yes,
alignment.
I
Align
agree.
yourself, yeah, align yourself with like Carol. And she's a super friend for, and you know, really uh, so I will also mention, I wanted to mention too that seek people who are older than we are. Seek people who have experience. Look, I mean, I talked to Carol about lots of things, and she's been through a lot other things than I have.
And I'm a lot older. I'm a great grandmother, for heaven's
She's
sake.
amazing. And yeah, I would. She looks amazing. You wouldn't even guess her age. I couldn't even. So, honor to the Carol. You really take really great care of yourself. So, moms, yes, one, take really good care of yourself,
I
and
agree.
not only that, but also take care of the people who are around you, and look to bring to you, look who are positive in your circle, and not just everybody, but yes. And I love that you mentioned the spiritual, because I forgot about that aspect, because I didn't have that type of support. So that's wonderful.
Yes, and that's important. And if there's one thing I could warn you against, is jumping from the fire into the fry pan. And what I mean by that is you get so lonely as a single mom. You're not with adults very often. And because I was teaching kindergarten, so I was with little kids all the time. And you could jump right into another relationship. And I know I had a very dear friend from high school say, "Oh, Carol, I know the perfect man for you. Oh, he's a teacher and he's just divorced. And I'd like to get you together." And I said, "No, please, no." And I somehow just didn't want to be with any man at that point. But others, they like you had a relationship sooner, and you're not emotionally ready, perhaps, for the next relationship. And when you do decide you're ready, I made a list. I actually made a list of what I wanted. And one thing is, I wanted stability. I didn't want anyone with any kind of unstable problem, because I had dealt with so much breakdown after breakdown, hospital stays and medications and all that. I didn't want to go through an unstable. And with schizophrenia, it's, you know, they lose reality. It's not neurotic, it's psychotic. And there's a huge difference. And so I would advise you to be very careful not to jump into another relationship, but to decide what you really want. Because look at us, look at you, Jackie, you're a beautiful woman.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I was at one time.
Oh, you are today.
know, and we are wonderful people, and we deserve the very best God has for us, don't we?
I
And
agree.
so, make your list. And when I finally met Al, my present husband, I looked at my list after I met him, and no male problems, number one. Upbeat, positive, number two. Financially secure. Now, I mean, I went right down through the list. Loves kids. He had a son, and
Mhm.
he loved kids, and he was a teacher too. He loved kids. So, everything I had on my list, I got. So if you don't have your list, and that's another thing I would ask you all to do, have your list. Know what you want in the next relationship. And you think maybe you don't want a next one. Well, you never know, it could happen. But if you at least say, this is what I want this, or nothing. Because there are a lot of wonderful men out there. There are a lot of wonderful women out there who are
Mhm.
upbeat, positive, and absolutely wonderful. So we can find them. We found each other online, no less.
That's right.
Amazing. And I can't wait to someday meet you in person. I'm hoping you'll bring your daughter and go to Disney sometime.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
my son works there, so yeah.
Wonderful.
So I hope someday, you can go to Disney and come visit us. We're only 2 hours from Disney.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we got to close now, and we have in the bottom of our name, there should be, oh, I see mine reverted back to Carol Gader. There
Yes,
should be a link to our websites. I don't know what happened to mine.
there's this Gator family.
GatorFamilyWellness.com.
Okay.
That's an educational site mainly for nutrition. There's ebooks in there, there's PowerPoints, classes, all
Mm.
kinds of stuff in there to learn how to take care of your physical body. If you want to take care of your spiritual body, you would go to dowsingwebinars.com. That is my spiritual side. And I have classes in there too, and all kinds of good
Well,
stuff.
and Carol will give me those, by the way, and I'll put them also in the notes below in the description in our chat.
Yes, they will be on YouTube for both of us. We're
Mhm.
also going to post it on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And if I could figure out how to do it on Alignable, I'd do it, but I don't know. And maybe I'll talk to you. Maybe you know how to do it. I
Wonderful.
don't know how. So I haven't posted there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. And we'll meet again soon, and we may do another talk on another subject. So stay tuned. Might surprise you. Bye, Jackie.
Bye, bye, Carol. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.